on this flight from KMGX to Westfield, Massachusetts. It was a nonstop, straight over JFK. Flight about 57 minutes total. On taking off from KMGX, I paused to make sure that the engine is functioning fine, so I speeded it to increase the manifold pressure to about 15 inches and look at the RPM as well as the fuel flow, and then release the brakes. On takeoff, although the sky looks a little blue, but on takeoff, in the first few hundred feet, there's a haze still hanging around with the smell of smoke. And the reason for the smell of smoke is because there was a fire in the proximity of the airport. And that burnt about 100 some acres. You'll see the charred remains as you look at the terrain flowing underneath the aircraft. It appears that there was a SR-20, a Cirrus, that crashed nearby that ignited the flames, but the information is not completely settled whether it was a fire before or a fire after that caused it. However, on takeoff, I called McGuire to have flight following, and they turned me over to Kennedy once I was within earshot of them. The climb out was about 8 minutes to 7,500 feet above the Class Bravo airspace. On my right side, you can see a pilot caddy. That's very convenient to put your phone and other belongings which are within reach. The rest of the flight was fairly uneventful, fairly much non-stop, straight out to KBAF. The winds were about 5-knot headwinds at 7,500, and I was still getting about 175 knot true airspeed, which is good. And total time en route was 57 minutes. It's the beginning of September. The temperature was still fairly high, about 92 degrees, hence the haze. And you can see that on both base and final legs of the approach to the runway. The approach is fairly simple. The runway is about 10,000 feet long, about 150 feet wide, and it's an easy, flat surface to land on. The taxi, however, from the runway to the FBO, with all the waiting in between, took about 4 minutes of driving around on the taxiway and crossing the other runway to get to the FBO. The lines people at the FBO, Atlantic Aviation, were very helpful, and both in tying the aircraft down and also for the needs to get to the hotel, etc. So they're very helpful, and the airport manager, Chris, was extremely helpful. I did fly over Turner Falls, including Pittsfield, and the return flight is like a wet noodle spaghetti from there to back to KMGX. It's all IFR. There's 400 feet ceiling, and then had a nice flight in between layers for about a few miles, and then went right through a cell right over JFK, which had a fairly moderate to heavy rain, but without any lightning or thunderstorm. A short flight. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.